I'm Nikita Turk.
And I'm Sally French.
And today we're answering your Reddit questions about traveling with your partner.
It's something I do often.
You do. You and your partner travel a lot. And you keep doing it. So obviously it's going pretty well.
We don't hate each other yet.
Right. How do you guys plan and budget for attending weddings?
Ooh, weddings are tricky and weddings are expensive. Definitely. So my first piece of advice is to always communicate with the couple getting married and be upfront about if you can't afford to go to that wedding, that maybe it's okay to not go. It's completely okay to skip something because it's too expensive.
Definitely.
That said, if you are going to a wedding, there are ways that you can save, especially if you're going with groups. You might consider staying in a vacation rental like an Airbnb. In fact, NerdWallet analyzed the prices for Airbnbs versus hotels, and NerdWallet did find that on average, Airbnbs for large groups, meaning parties of 6 or more, are cheaper than booking 3 individual hotel rooms. So if you're going with family to a big wedding, see if you can coordinate that.
Flight delays, lost baggage, or canceled hotel can all put a damper on your travel plans. Consider booking the earliest flight of the day and avoiding layovers whenever possible. And remember to use your travel rewards from your credit card strategically. Is it better to have 2 travel cards, 1 per person, per couple, or only 1 travel card per couple?
Ooh, interesting. Well, this is a good question, and it does depend on your credit. So if one partner has a much higher credit score than the other, then it might make more sense to just use the partner's credit card who has that higher credit score because they're typically unlocking better benefits. But let's assume that you both have excellent credit and you both qualify for excellent travel credit cards. There is a case for just one of you to have them because the best travel credit cards have annual fees, and many of them have benefits that can feel duplicative. So they'll have something like lounge access, but as having that lounge access, you can bring in a guest. So there's no reason for both of you to pay for that lounge access if you're always traveling together. Another example is that we see many credit cards that offer something like a streaming credit. If you both live together, then you probably don't both need a Netflix or a Disney Plus subscription. I'm sure you're sharing it. But there are some situations where it can make sense for both partners to have their own credit card, and I like to call this 2-player mode. Many credit cards will have individual unique benefits. So one might offer that fancy airline lounge access and nothing else, and then the other might offer automatic elite status at a hotel and free night certificates and nothing else. So with 2-player mode, you can take advantage of both sets of benefits, and there are many credit cards that are very complementary to each other, so you can both take advantage of each other's perks and combine them into one to become a super ultra powerful couple. NerdWallet has plenty of recommendations on its site of credit cards that are great for playing 2-player mode.
Yeah. So if you have 2 individuals within a couple that both independently travel a ton, which route would you recommend going there?
Yeah, and that's a situation where you might each want to have your own credit card. Some of the most underrated perks of credit cards include things like travel insurance, where trips paid for on that card are covered. So if you're going on your own solo trip and you're paying for it, and then the other partner is going on their own solo trip, it can make sense to just make sure that you're making those purchases on your own card. Not to mention, you each get that lounge access and all the other benefits that you can take advantage of.
There are a lot of perks that come with those points getting racked up on a travel reward card. So establishing the expectation of how they'll be shared ahead of time is important. But whether you choose to book everything on one shared card or both pay for your own ticket on individual cards, make sure that you're maximizing your rewards in a way that makes sense for the 2 of you. AITA. For not wanting to split my credit card points with my partner.
Ooh.
So points can be really valuable. So if you come into a relationship and you have a ton of points, do you have to share those?
This is my favorite genre of Reddit questions, and this is my favorite question I have seen yet. So I think this is a good one, and it really depends on the nature of your relationship. How do you split money? If you're a couple who really does go down the line, and when you buy groceries, you split that bill in half, or maybe even one partner eats way more food, so you split it so that way they pay more if they eat more food, then this is a serious consideration. One thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that credit card points and miles are a currency. They're not a US dollar, but they are a currency in itself, and you worked hard to redeem them. And so it is perfectly okay to say, you know, I have 100,000 points, and I believe that these points are worth $1,000. And so in order for, if you're gonna pay me back for, you know, half of our $1,000 purchase, and you're gonna pay me back $500, it could be perfectly reasonable to expect that partner to pay back, you know, $500. But of course, this is on you and your relationship. relationship. The other thing to consider is that I said that points and miles are a currency, but they are a funky currency because we don't all agree on what a currency is worth. So you might look at it as, what is the cash value if you exchange those points for cash? What are they worth? What is the value if you exchange them for travel at that specific hotel and what the cash price of that hotel is? Because often it is not the same as exchanging your credit card points for cash. One thing that I will give a shameless plug to, NerdWallet has credit card points and miles calculators, which can actually tell you what NerdWallet believes the value of your points and miles are. So that can be a good way if you're really someone who wants to split and make sure everything's even, go that route.
Yeah. I think the biggest key here is talking to your partner.
Talk to your partner. Yes, because, even I'm at a point personally with my relationship where my partner and I, we do the 2-player mode, and he's got a different credit card than I have, and mine gets free hotel nights, but his gets lounge access. So we just sort of say it's even, that he's going to get me into the lounges, and then I'm going to get him a free hotel night, and we feel like it all shakes out.
You two are that super power couple, that power points couple you were just talking about.
I wasn't going to say it, but...
Remember that splitting hotels and excursions 50-50 doesn't always make the most sense. Make sure you set expectations up front. Be open about your budget and what you are willing to spend. And be prepared to skip certain activities and excursions if they don't fit in the budget that you set for yourself. All right, how do you divide travel expenses as a couple?
Yeah, so we talked about basically dividing the points and the miles, but dividing the expenses is also something to consider. And I think it's basically what we've been saying, is have that communication with your partner. Especially with travel, it can be difficult because it's expenses we're not used to. We typically know how to split groceries and we know how to split rent because that's something we do every month, but travel can be more complicated, especially if someone really wants that super fancy hotel and you're fine staying in the cheap inn or motel. Have that conversation, and this might be an opportunity for someone to say, I really want this expensive thing, so I'll pay for it, and that can be my gift to you. Maybe say, this is my birthday gift to you.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that sometimes there's a big disparity in your incomes. So me spending this $500 might be a tiny amount, but for my partner, this might be a huge amount. So kind of looking at it that way too, to find that sweet middle ground that makes the most sense for the both of you. Right?
That's a great way to frame it. And, especially if you have an income disparity and you might split rent differently, and it might make sense to split that vacation cost similarly.
If you and your partner have different visions of an ideal vacation destination, be sure that splitting up these decisions gets added to the conversation. For what it's worth, many destinations can offer the best of both worlds. If someone loves relaxing and someone loves adventure, budget time for the pool and spa after you go on that long hike. Okay, Sally, if you had to choose your one biggest takeaway about traveling with your partner, what would that be?
Definitely understand your budget. Often we hear a lot of advice around how to budget in everyday life with your partner, but there's not so much advice about how to budget for a trip with your partner.
True.
So make sure you have that conversation and be okay, understand what that person wants to pay for and what you want to pay for. On top of that, it's not just budgeting money, but also budgeting time. It's just the two of you, so make sure that you both get to do the things that you sought out to do on that trip.
Sally, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for hanging out with me.
This was fun, as always.
As always. Thanks so much for joining us on Control Finance. What's your biggest financial tip for traveling with your partner? Let us know down in the comments below.